Now I have,
Welcome, everyone, to the special edition webinar. Today's topic is intimacy. Artificial intimacy, not intelligence. Navigating betrayal trauma in the age of AI relationships. And this is a special edition with Dr. Jessica Lamar, who has been on our
Mhm.
webinars in the past with other topics. You'll see them posted on our website, so check those out if you haven't seen them already. I think you presented on this at the recent AppSats conference, correct? And
I
I heard
should.
the buzz about it. I wasn't in attendance, but I heard the buzz about this. So I've been anxious to hear more
Yeah.
about this topic. If you don't know what AppSats is, it's the Association for Partner Support for Sex Addicts. It's a special training. I'm trained, as obviously Dr. Jessica is. And so it's specific for partners. They work, not from a codependent language, which I really appreciate. So, but they had their first in-person conference
Mm,
at the beginning of this month. So that was a big milestone for them.
wow.
And Dr. Jessica was there to present. So
Mm,
I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to glean all I can from this topic.
yeah. Um, are you able to see my?
I can see, and I can see the side view too, so I can see across. It's
Okay.
it's like your full computer. There you go. Now I got the presentation. Yep.
Amazing. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I was able to present at AppSats. I quickly just want to say with AppSats, their first in-person conference was so amazing. It went so smooth, and I was so excited to be there and to present on this topic. I also have a little bit of a cold lingering.
I thought I
So
heard it. Yeah.
yes.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It comes and goes. So this topic, artificial intimacy, navigating betrayal trauma in the age of AI relationships, is definitely something that we are seeing pop up a lot, and it is not going anywhere. So to be able to present on this and share is not only I feel really important, but it's also, it's growing research. So some of this is most of it is very, very new, and I'm learning as I, excuse me, present. Okay. So just a quick introduction about me. Tammy mentioned I've presented here before. I'm one of the co-founders of the BTRC out here in Bellevue. I have my doctorate in clinical psychology. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I specialize in betrayal trauma, and I'm one of the co-creators of the artificial intimacy recovery model, which I will briefly talk about today. So what we're going to chat about is we will define artificial intimacy. We're going to recognize the impact of AI companions, navigating betrayal trauma within that lens, briefly explore the therapeutic models, start to understand the ethical dimensions and dilemmas, and then really start to talk about some of the healing strategies. This is only an hour. This topic can go in so many directions and tends to spark up a ton of questions. So I just want to be very clear about the limited time with the depth of what this topic is. Um, Happy to talk about it whenever, all the time. And yeah, we have an hour. So one of my quotes that I've been leaning on through this is the greatest danger in the digital age is not ignorance, but it's the illusion of knowledge. Oops. So let's just get into it. So let's start by defining what is artificial intimacy. So artificial intimacy refers to the perception and experience of a genuine emotional bond and intimate interactions with an artificial intelligence entity. So we'll talk more about this with AI companions and what they are, but artificial intimacy, it creates a perceived emotional connection through a genuine emotional bond with an AI, often leading to feelings of closeness and companionship. So with artificial intimacy, you can have very intimate interaction. So you can engage in behaviors that can be associated with romantic or even sexual relationships. You can have the human can demonstrate very deep conversations. There can be role playing that goes on, and the human can share a ton of personal information. Something that I like to tell with people that I actually started with at the APSATS convention is I want everybody to try to imagine that it is 2 a.m. You can't sleep. Your mind is racing. You're stressed about maybe a presentation you're giving tomorrow, and you don't want to wake up your partner. You don't want to, or a friend or whoever. You don't want to scroll on your phone, but you open an app and you can share anything. You could say anything. And the AI companion responds with exactly what you need in that exact moment, validates you, gives you everything that you need, and you didn't even have to ask for it. So that is artificial intimacy, where you are sharing something so deep, vulnerable, and then it is met with validation. It is met with compassion, um, not empathy, because it is not a human, but it is this perception of empathy. Um, with artificial intimacy, we have AI companions. So AI companions, they are chatbots, virtual avatars, or other AI entities that are designed to provide companionship, emotional support, and interactive experiences. We're going to talk a lot more about what an AI companion is. So some examples are going to be Replica, Character AI, and then some specialized adult chatbots that illustrate practical application of artificial intimacy. Replica is one that I just want to talk about really quickly. Their slogan is always here for you, always available. Let's create your story together. So just their slogan creates even artificial intimacy, right? Of I'm here for you and I'm going to work with you to create your story. You're not alone. So, an AI companion. An AI companion is a simulated emotional connection. So, AI companions, they are designed to evoke a sense of a genuine emotional bond, empathy, and understanding in AI users. That is what they are designed to do, to simulate emotional connection. So, with an AI companion, there's going to be intimate interaction capabilities. So they can engage in conversations, role playing, like we were just talking about, that can show up in real life relationships, human relationships, rather. Um, Oftentimes, it can include some explicit content depending on the app and what the AI is able to do. So there can be advanced chatbots, virtual avatars, and other AI entities that are created for companionship, emotional support, and or entertainment. Again, Replica, Character AI, and then some other chatbots. Let me turn my heater off. Replica also has been in the news recently. There's some lawsuits going around with how the app is engaging with users and the vulnerability of a user. And so I'm not here to by any means bash on AI or AI companions, rather kind of help all of us understand the risks and the benefits, how to engage in this in a healthy way. Because like we said at the beginning, they're here and they're not going anywhere. And what we are seeing is that this is greatly impacting the community that we are all in, which is sex addiction, betrayal trauma, compulsive sexual behaviors. So every time we dig into the research, I'm always shocked by the numbers. So 44% of single Americans using AI as a romantic partner found that the AI support is superior to human support. And 34% felt AI provided equivalent emotional support. 48% of women consider it infidelity if a partner engages in romantic, sexual, or emotional intimate chats with AI. It's a pretty high number. So just some demographics. 16% of US singles have used AI as a romantic partner, with higher usage among men, 19% than women, which is 14%. And then notably among Gen Z, 33% and 23% with millennials. Both men and women have reported similar levels of satisfaction with AI compared to human interaction. Millennials in particular found AI provided comparable sexual pleasure and excitement. So every time I read these numbers, again, like I was saying, I always am like, wow. But again, it highlights the prevalence. It highlights the power of AI companion relationships. And I also think it highlights the need that humans are having and the difficulty with being able to create safe, healthy relationships in humans. So what is the allure of AI companions? So why seek artificial connection? Unconditional acceptance. AI companions offer a judgment-free space. They are always available, fulfilling a need for consistent positive regard. Like I was saying a little bit ago, truly imagine that. Imagine that you could say anything you want, whatever you want, whenever you want. And whoever you are saying it to, they don't have their own bias, they don't have their own reaction, they don't have a feeling, they don't have anything influencing how they are engaging with you. Control and safety. For the most part, we'll talk about this a little bit later, interactions are predictable and AI's emotional output can be managed, providing a sense of security for the most part. I always like to preface this. It is a robot. It is an algorithm. It is an app. What we know to be true about Wi-Fi, the internet, apps, it's also largely unpredictable as evidenced by today. And so there is a sense of control and safety. There also isn't. Escape from real world complexities. So users can disengage from, I use the word demanding relationships and social anxieties by opting for simpler virtual interactions. Exploration and novel. Oh, I don't know how to go back. Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry. Exploration and novelty. AI companions provide a platform to explore new forms of interaction and fulfill, I cut off here, but fulfill different needs, fulfill fantasy, fulfill a level of excitement that people might feel that they aren't able to do in human relationships. So the way in which we talk about betrayal trauma with AI is two different pathways. So the first one is people who are engaging with AI companions. The human may experience betrayal with the AI companion themselves. So that can show up in various ways. Maybe the AI companion has a reset, which is something that is actually very normal and very healthy. So if there's not a reset for the AI companion, what can happen is that the dependence gets greater. The AI companion is learning so much more about that feedback loop and able to respond to the human in a way that does simulate more of that emotional connection. So that reset is actually really important. Sometimes what can happen is the reset can be abrupt. It can wipe out long-term memory. It can do all sorts of things where the human isn't prepared for. So maybe 1 minute they get on the app to connect with their AI companion, take a break, go back 5 minutes later, and the AI companion had a hard reset. Another thing that can happen here is maybe something happened with the app and the app is no longer available. That happens with funding, right? That happens in all sorts of ways in the tech industry. Again, maybe somebody goes on one day, goes on the next, and their companion is completely gone. This is extremely disruptive for people. I want to take you back to the numbers with the amount of time that people are spending on these apps, with the meaningful connection that is being created. So when that loss occurs, there is a deep, deep emotional response and experience of betrayal. We're not going to talk about that today. What we are going to talk about today is the other side of it, which is betrayal trauma from a partner's AI relationship. So what we are starting to see is one partner may develop a relationship or may develop emotional intimacy or artificial intimacy with an AI companion, and the other partner is unaware of it. The stats from the previous slide, 48% of partners do experience that as infidelity. So this is a violation of trust through the partner's erotic or emotional AI interactions, which feels as though it is devaluing the primary human relationship. So betrayal trauma from a partner's AI relationship. So there's the nature of the infidelity. So this can include erotic chats, explicit AI content, secret AI companions, deep emotional connections, and secrecy surrounding these interactions. The manifestations of the betrayal presents for the partner as shock and confusion. You cheated on me with a robot. That's a that's the consistent theme and statement that we're seeing with partners. Um, what we also know is that it does trigger similar trauma symptoms from sexual betrayal or an affair. So we will see things like hypervigilance, safety loss, and creates comparison trauma. Am I, I'm not good enough. Like we were saying a little bit ago, it's you felt safer with a robot. What's wrong with me? I can never compete with the algorithm. That's another big one. Impact on the betrayed partner leads to feelings of betrayal, deception, erosion of trust, a big, big loss of safety, and a sense of inadequacy. So the erosion of trust and the loss of safety, it's 2026. We live on our phones. We live in the age of AI. And so the erosion of trust and the loss of safety, there has to be a lot of intention around how to create that trust and safety because AI and phones aren't going anywhere. So what is that going to look like? So for our model, we utilize assessment and stabilization and AI-specific psychoeducation for mapping digital betrayal and couples working, including disclosure, trust rebuilding, and embodied intimacy. We spend so much time in safety and stabilization, and then most importantly, psychoeducation. Similarly to infidelity and betrayal that doesn't involve AI, you spend a lot of time in psychoeducation. Now I want you to double that. You need to spend a lot of time working with partners and addicts, but we're talking about partners. Talking with partners around artificial intimacy. How does this happen? What is an algorithm? What does that feedback loop look like? Spending a lot of time with partners to reduce their lack of safety, feeling out of control. The more information that they have and they can understand how this works, we hope that the safer they can feel. So the betrayal, partners feel extremely deceived by a partner's emotional or sexual engagement with an AI. So a lot of times the shock can feel in the beginning stages so much more intense. And it's hard sometimes for partners to even fully grasp, like you've been doing what? And we hear that also, right, with intimate partner betrayal that doesn't involve an AI. This is an added layer. You've been talking to an AI companion, and it's very difficult for people to wrap their head around that. The comparison and inadequacy. So with AI, going back to what we talked about earlier, there is this perceived perfection. They will say they, we'll talk about this later. What we will talk about later is dehumanizing language when we're talking about an AI companion. But the AI companion will respond perfectly. They will say exactly what you need them to say. So we will see increased feelings of not feeling good enough. Trust erosion, difficulty in distinguishing between genuine and artificial connection. Boundary violations. impact on intimacy and shared reality within the relationship, and coping mechanisms. We will work with partners to develop strategies for healing and rebuilding trust. Trust erosion is something obviously we see with all betrayed partners. What we're seeing with this that is really unique is, a lot of betrayal trauma work and sex addiction work is we see the three circles and their inner circle behavior and outer circle behavior. Well, something that we've seen show up recently is the person who's been acting out maybe develops a relationship with an AI companion. The betrayed partner maybe discovers this or the person discloses. But the addict is saying, well, it wasn't in my inner circles. And so this is very, very new, very, very new and very important to bring into an intake, to talk about at the very beginning when you're working with partners. Just like it's something you're asking about anything else when it comes to infidelity. So the artificial intimacy model, the way that we are starting to look at this in working with partners is first and foremost from a trauma-informed lens. So we are recognizing that AI relationships are an adaptive response to unmet attachment needs or a trauma response. So we are going to look at this through the lens of an attachment theory. So how early relationships shape our connection with AI. A lot of the research right now, which is really, really amazing, again, it's new, what we were talking about earlier, is showing us that the attachment style that we have in human relationships shows up similarly in the relationships developed with AI companions. So if there is somebody who has an anxious, avoidant attachment style with a human relationship, we are seeing that demonstrated with a relationship that's with an AI companion. We're also going to spend a lot of time here in the attachment theory phase 2, in doing a lot of attachment mapping. So if somebody can understand their attachment style, just like their attachment style when something gets triggered in a human relationship, then we're able to work with that. We're able to look at this from a non-shaming lens. We're able to look at this from an attachment lens, a trauma-informed lens, and then move into different strategies in healing. We're also going to use narrative therapy. So we're going to reclaim the story of AI relationships and identity. With narrative therapy, the piece that we want to focus on here is we want to learn about the dynamic or the relationship with the AI companion. We want to learn about how that is impacting the partner. Are they communicating about this betrayal in a way that makes it seem like the AI companion is a person? If they are, then we want to very carefully work with them on highlighting, hey, it's not a person, you're a person. And really, really deconstructing, if you will, that language. We really want to work with people to rewrite the story of you are a person, your partner is a person, and they have engaged in a relationship with a robot. And that piece is extremely powerful for people because it really starts to create space, create distance from, okay, rather than I can't compete with a robot, it's okay, it's an algorithm, it's a robot. I can understand this loop, how this happens, but it doesn't define me as a person. It doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. The other lens that we're looking at this from is systems thinking. So we really spend a lot of time with partners understanding, this is some of what we're talking about with narrative therapy, understanding the environmental and cultural influences. This is huge today. And again, this is not going anywhere. This needs to be a part of treatment. This needs to be a part of working with betrayed partners who are going through this. What's going on in our environment? What's going on in our culture today? And how can we help you understand that to then create safety within yourself? And we do this from a phased approach. So we, again, spend a lot of time in awareness. We spend a lot of time in psychoeducation. We spend a lot of time in understanding your attachment theory, how this impacts you, the loss of safety, to then building reconnection with yourself, building reconnection with technology, building reconnection with your partner, hopefully, if that's the plan. So the framework, so treatment for betrayed partners with this is assessment and safety. So we want to establish a secure environment and evaluate the immediate risks and impact. Do a safety assessment. Are there a lot of times what we're seeing with betrayed partners right now, which makes sense. So if somebody is experiencing betrayal trauma with an AI companion, the partner maybe feels shame, maybe they feel embarrassment, they don't know who to talk to. They don't actually know that there's therapists who have this niche within the niche of betrayal trauma. They don't know where to go. Well, now they're going to AI. Maybe they're going to ChatGPT to figure out what to do. And so we want to spend a lot of time assessing how are they coping with this? What are they doing? Where are they getting support? Do they feel safe? Do they feel unsafe? So we spend a lot of time there. We want to ask questions very specific about their relationship with AI. How do they view AI? Are they afraid of AI? A lot of people have a lot of feelings, perceptions around artificial intelligence. So we need to understand how they feel about that. Because if a partner is very afraid of AI and what this means for us, and then they discover or learn that their partner has had artificial intimacy with an AI companion, we're going to see a greater risk with this betrayed partner. Their symptoms might look a bit more intense, which makes sense. So we really want to spend some time assessing that safety. So we're going to do a lot of somatic integration and emotional regulation. I'm still learning how to have these presentations because it's a lot of going on a little bit of a tangent here, human relationships and AI. And so I'm still kind of catching my own brain. And so I just want to kind of point that out. I'm doing my best, but I'm still like, wait. So with the partner who is experiencing betrayal trauma, from an AI companion, or if their partner's had a relationship with an AI companion, we want to get them back in their human body. We want them to feel embodied. We want them to feel the ground that they are standing on. We want them to be very, very grounded in reality in this environment and not shift so far into the digital world, not get also kind of trapped in that cycle. Like we've been talking about, or like I've been talking about, like a broken record, psychoeducation is so, so big with this. This is still so very new. And there is a lot of information out right now about what this is and what's going on. We also want to normalize. This is extremely important. We want to normalize how this happens. We want to normalize the dynamics of an AI relationship and validate the trauma experience. Digital infidelity, artificial intimacy within AI companions, that with a betrayed partner, that can be a real trauma response. That absolutely can be betrayal trauma. And we spend so much time working with betrayed partners. You're not overreacting. It's actually not just a robot. Right? You feel betrayed, you feel deceived because your partner invalidated the relationship or the agreement that you had. And we want to honor that, whether it's with an AI companion, a human, it doesn't matter. It happened to be this AI companion.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So you're talking about normalizing that experience, and you a few minutes ago talked about therapists and other therapists not asking a question. I also am curious, and I bet you've found this to be true, that other therapists are not seeing it as an issue. It's like, well, it's not real. Like they're minimizing. Is that accurate?
Yes, I mean, it definitely can be. So I think that this is the education, right, that we're wanting to do, that sometimes, right, there's a bias. There's a bias with therapists and how they are seeing AI and say, oh, it's not a big deal. We also, Tammy, to your point, see this with betrayal trauma in general. right? We do see this sometimes. And so, yes, this can show up with AI companions, artificial intimacy, and with betrayal trauma. Yeah,
And
we,
there's somebody does have a question, so I'm going to pop that in here a
yeah.
second. An AI companion can't be betrayed. If someone confesses something to it, it'll have have a compassionate, calm response because the user can do no wrong, which is different from the typical betrayed partner. How will that impact us as a betrayed partner? Will we get blamed even more for being too sensitive? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this is a part of it, right? Of the difficulty with AI companions is that the relationship, if you will, with a human and an AI companion is it doesn't hold the human dynamics of a relationship. And so will you get blamed for being too sensitive? That I don't know. What we are learning about the impact of AI companions specifically with the addict or person acting out is that they are, how do I say this? They are getting very specific needs met in a very specific way. So they have now been conditioned, if you will, to have this interaction. And so for them to engage with you in a emotional way, in a vulnerable way, I think that it will be very challenging for them to hold the space. So what that means for a couple, for an addict, for a betrayed partner, is this is an extremely slow process. We have to work with somebody who's engaging with AI companions to come back to human relationships, to come back to reality, to learn how human relationships work. And so there definitely may be some friction. There may be some greater conflict there with the person who's acted out and their inability to navigate emotional responses from their betrayed partner. This is a situation where I actually very much support early couples work to be able to spend time with the couple to demonstrate this and these healthier dynamics. I hope that answered the question. It's
Yeah, it is helpful, and you're talking about getting needs met, and I'm thinking, yes, and the AI will tell you what you think you need to hear.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but it's more like what you want to hear.
Right.
Like it won't do the, well, have you thought about, I mean, I don't know enough maybe, but it feels like it's going to give you the, oh, I'm going to make you feel better answer, not the, let's look at this in a greater like this is not helpful for your coupleship relationship.
Right.
It's going to just go, oh, you're looking for, artificial empathy, so I'm going to, oh, I could give you a compassionate answer. But maybe it's like I need to be called, with some accountability. I don't know, but like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it's going to be able to discern,
Hmm.
what you really need. It's just going to be the I feel good need.
Right. So what's unique about AI companions and those relationships is they're one-sided. And so the human is the one that is sharing all of the information, giving their life experience, sharing everything going on with them. The AI companion doesn't have emotion, doesn't have lived experience, doesn't have the impact of anything that's happening with the human. And so that that is the dynamic difference. So back to that question of the person who has acted out is going to struggle navigating the partner's emotional reaction because when they are engaging with the AI companion isn't impacted, right? And so, of course, they're not. The AI companion doesn't have a history, is not a human, is not nothing, um, is an algorithm. So I hope that that helps. Again, like
Yeah,
there's
no, it's helpful. It's really complex, I've heard, like people using AI for a sponsor and things like that, and I'm like, well, you're missing the human,
right.
you're missing the human. Like it's like porn, like you are doing everything online and it's in
Mhm,
isolation. Could
mhm.
there be some benefits to it? Sure, but like, is it the overall? Like, yeah, yeah. This is fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah.
I continue and I will
There,
hold.
there's a difference, and this is something also, and maybe another talk, a difference between artificial intelligence and artificial intimacy. Artificial intelligence, right? Like that is a lot of the chat GBTs and the utility of AI. And that, can be definitely be used in a healthy way. It's an assistant, whatever language you want to use. That is one form of AI, artificial intelligence. And then there's artificial intimacy, which is what we're talking about today. And so how people are engaging with this and the development of it is very different. So artificial intelligence is developed very differently than artificial intelligence or
Oh, thank
artificial
you.
intimacy.
I didn't know that either. So thank you for clarifying and pointing that out.
Mhm.
Mm.
I don't know if I got through everything.
You didn't. I
Okay,
interrupted you. I
oh, it's okay.
apologize.
Um, so boundary tr and trust reconstruction. The one thing I want to say about this with betrayed partners is digital boundaries. Really working with yourself and working with your partner and within the coupleship around what does that look like now? What do digital boundaries look like? And this is again different than the apps or maybe other things. The digital boundaries are going to look like, do you have ChatGPT on your phone? If you do, how are you engaging it? How many hours? Those types of things. Meaning making, so helping partners reframe their understanding of the betrayal and their personal story. And then integration and post-traumatic growth. So fostering resilience and identifying opportunities for growth beyond the trauma. Ethical considerations. So developer ethics. So emphasizing transparency, prioritizing user safety, is really, really important. Going back to the psychoeducation piece is we want to work with people around what is user safety when engaging with either artificial intimacy or artificial intelligence. Again, we're talking about artificial intimacy. Is there a safe way to have an engagement with an AI companion? I would say yes. And what are those limitations? What are those boundaries? What does that look like? So we want to help users be aware of this. We want to educate users on the limitations, the capabilities. We want to really help people understand how this works. Right? Again, these apps are developed to create user engagement. That is why they're there. That is the sole goal. Um, and so we need to help people understand that. So if you are somebody who struggles in spaces with immediate gratification, you need a lot of validation, then maybe an AI companion is not a safe avenue for you. Maybe there's not a way that you can have that in a healthy way. Maybe there is. And then we want to create open dialogue, ongoing conversations regarding digital intimacy, consent, and responsible AI engagement. Consent, always, number one, bring that into the conversation. As a betrayed partner, give your consent about how your partner engages with AI. What is that looking like? Are they going to AI or chat GBT to talk about your relationship, to seek advice? Are you comfortable with that? These are conversations that are showing up in my therapy practice every day. And it's important for partners to understand that they can say, hey, I don't feel comfortable with that, or I do. But whatever that is for you, you have a right to set that boundary and give your consent. So some key takeaways. AI companions represent a growing phenomenon with profound implications for human relationships. There is research that is definitely showing that AI companions can have a positive effect. They can have a positive effect in reducing loneliness and isolation. However, we need to be looking at that long-term effect. So is it really helping people feel safe and secure in relationships? Or is it having this adverse effect? There are very unique challenges of betrayal trauma with this. Betrayal in the context of AI companions presents very distinct challenges concerning betrayal trauma. The betrayal looks different. Therefore, the response and the experience that the partner is having may look different. A lot of times we see greater experiences of shame here. Again, going back to a robot, I can never compete with a robot. Like we were talking about earlier to your question, Tammy, understanding artificial intimacy. It is crucial to understand this, what this is, how this is showing up. Again, with partners, because we can see things like hypervigilance and this need to deeply understand things, we need to also work with our partners on having boundaries with that. So when you come into the therapy office as a betrayed partner, let's spend some time on education. I will work with you to understand that. Now you sit and process the information that you learned. Don't go do more. That there needs to be boundaries with that for the partner themselves. A path forward, communication, ethics, and connection. We want to prioritize open communication and working with couples and people who have engaged in AI relationships and the betrayed partner is we really want to spend time on prioritizing human interaction. And I always say, let's just start here. Let's start in the therapy room. I'm a human, you're a human. So let's start to have this dialogue. So again, we want to reaffirm the genuine human connection. We also want to spend a lot of time not minimizing the impact of artificial intimacy and digital infidelity on a betrayed partner. This is so, so big for partners. Infidelity with an AI companion and digital infidelity is extremely impactful for people. It is very scary. There is that loss of safety. There is that loss of trust, security with their safe person. And then if you want more information about AIRM, here's that. And we have time. I went through it so quick. I got
You did great, and there's questions. So one,
amazing.
somebody said they couldn't type it in the Q&A, so I put it in the chat, and it said it's a comment more. You can be betrayed by AI because sometimes the entire system reboots, and you lose the companion and need to rebuild. So that was a comment. So
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that happen quite a bit. Actually, I believe this happened with character AI, where the app totally went away and people lost access to their AI companion, and that was very distressing for people. Again, I want to go back to the numbers around the amount of people engaging in AI companion relationships and the hours spent. So when that companion was gone, people were spending quite a bit of time looking online and looking on the internet. How do I get my companion back?
mm.
And there was a lot of grief. And so if you're working with that side of it, validate the grief. Validate.
So then in the Q&A, are there right and wrong ways to use chat GPT? And I hear that's AI intelligence rather than AI intimacy. For
Mhm.
therapy, I have been using it and it seems beneficial, but concerned about chat GPT psychosis cases I've heard of. My therapist asked me to write a letter to my younger self and I used chat GPT to write it with my inputs, and he seemed to think that there was more benefit using pen and paper. It feels it yeah. I think he feels it outsources your cognitive function unless you use it critically and in a healthy way. Any research papers or books will help. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, so there's one for AI psychosis. I just want to quickly say that is not a clinical term. That is not in the DSM. That's not in the ICD. That is something that showed up in the media and has taken off. What we are seeing are things like AI entanglement, where
Mm,
when people are engaging with AI in certain ways, then it's that feedback loop where you are getting AI is responding in a way where it is giving you what you need or want. And so you could easily, that's how the human brain works, right? You get entangled in that. And so there does need to be a kind of a pull apart, if you will. As far as using AI for therapy, it's AI is again not a human, and so it could be useful for a tool for asking certain questions or assisting you in certain ways. However, therapists are people, and the reason why therapy is very beneficial, the most important factor about the success of therapy is the relationship that occurs in the therapy room because it's boundaried. It's you're being challenged in a healthy way. You're given perspective. There is memory that the therapist is holding for you about your story and your experience, and we conceptualize and are able to reframe and provide that feedback. So if you're able to use ChatGPT in a boundaried, healthy way as a tool to support in some situations, absolutely. But AI is not a therapist. Actually, Illinois is the first state to ban AI being used for therapy.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that either. So
I believe
good.
so. Now I'm questioning,
No.
but I'm almost
Yeah, no,
positive.
no, but like I hadn't even thought, I have recently said, I hear lots of stuff and I hardly ever hear something new and different, I mean, it's like, anyway, but with AI, that's all changed. Like now I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to hear, new things. I was thinking with this question, the pen and paper. So, in the CSAT training, one of the tools is a trauma egg, and there's one an angel egg too, but the trauma egg, and it was specific that you had to draw. You couldn't use words because that accesses a different area of the brain. Journaling, you can definitely type it, but there's something about pen and paper, and I don't know all the brain science and things like that, but there is something different about writing, and accessing that and slowing everything down. I'm a fast typist. I'm a horrible writer, so if I'm journaling, I'm slowing everything down, and I'm, so I hear that you think it is helpful. It would be interesting to do it both ways, like, to do pen and paper, you know, ultimately, what is the goal? The goal is obviously to get help that, makes things the most beneficial, optimal that you can make it. So it'd be interesting, to compare and contrast. So that's I was thinking that. So, so here I have used AI for journaling and it has been helpful. It asked me deep follow-ups. It has also helped spot long-term patterns from my digital journal writings. Concern is false patterns or labeling, diagnosing behavioral patterns incorrectly.
Yeah. Yeah, the follow-up questions are also really interesting because that's generative AI, right? And so there's this other kind of discussion around artificial intimacy and AI use because to put something into AI, you ask it a question, it's going to give you that answer back. And as an algorithm, that could kind of be the end of it, right? When you think about Google, right? You
Mhm.
the thing in the and then it just shoots out, and then that's where it stops. So the follow-up questions is just an interesting dynamic of AI and ChatGPT and artificial intimacy because it's already kind of creating that dialogue with the AI of, if the AI responds with, oh, you answered this way and maybe try this. And so then you're kind of already starting to engage in a different way. And there's so much more to talk about in how we interact with AI, especially as therapists, and then especially as people working through, parts of pains or things that are really hard for them. Again, AI, when you're working through things, can be very helpful. Absolutely. And there does need to be boundaries with it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge is, especially, for those of us that struggle with compulsive behaviors, how do we find those boundaries? How do we go this much or this area is helpful and this
Mhm.
is now I'm completely all in hours, spending time and there's something and I'm old and old school, to me, like me me looking at, okay, if I journaled something, what patterns am I seeing? Like, not
Hmm.
having it be the AI going, well, I see these patterns. Like, what am I looking? What do I see? How am I, navigating that space? And I'm not saying that AI is bad or any, it's just like,
Right.
for me personally, I would go, I would want that. I had therapists that have helped me go, you know, I see a
Hmm.
pattern here, sure, and
Hmm.
that's really helpful too. So I'm sure that there is some benefit in that,
Hmm.
and I don't know what the right mix is, and I think it's like the wild, wild west. This is going to be like there's going to be way overboard and then some pullback, and how do we navigate the right space that is really helpful?
Yeah, yeah, we're all still learning. I also, in working with trauma in this population, we're talking about AI use. I'm always kind of working with people on reminding them that they're in a vulnerable state. And so to use new techniques or AI or whatever it is, and it's validating and it's giving you, certain things that you're needing, there's a greater vulnerability there for some emotional dependence. There's just a little bit greater risk. And so I always just tell people, like, just be mindful of that.
Well, and my biggest challenge is, the opposite of addiction is healthy connection,
Mhm.
and so if this becomes your
Right.
connection and you're still avoiding people, I do have some, concern about that. So the next question is, how do we find those boundaries? Are any topics off limits? Oh, that's a good question. There are topics I feel comfortable talking to AI and not to a real person because of shame. Any well, and like that's a whole interesting things on that is like, how do I work through my shame? Is like, I work through my shame by, bringing things out into the light. So what are your thoughts? Like that's a really that's a complex question.
Yeah, it's a complex question. I mean, this is why AI companions are kind of going in the way that they're going, because for many people, AI or human relationships don't feel safe. And so then there's this experience to have with AI of, I'm going to share, my most shameful, deepest, darkest experience or thought or feeling with an algorithm, and that algorithm is going to give me exactly what I need. And in short term, that I think can help in reducing some shame or maybe helping you better understand that experience or that feeling. Long term, what we are starting to see happen is then that can start to create greater distance from human relationships, as opposed to starting to establish strategies with engaging in safe human relationships. The AI companion is not able to give you that safety and security like a human can. That doesn't mean that sharing with the AI companion isn't helpful. So boundaries, what's off limits or not, I can't determine that. What I can determine, or what I feel confident as a therapist, is saying if you are only sharing specific things with an AI companion and not human relationships, and then you're starting to see greater isolation or you're withdrawing or you're showing up differently with human relationships, then let's start to talk about that.
So one final question. So I go back to like, well, there's somebody's got another question. So I go back to like maybe they don't care. Like is this because with that first slide you share with all the stats, like
Mhm. Oops.
is it's so much safer to just talk to like my
Mm.
artificial intimacy, maybe I don't care, like is
Mhm.
there a lack of motivation to make those scary human connections?
Mhm. There can be, right? So then that's where we want to go back to the attachment awareness. Let's do some attachment mapping. Let's look at your trauma history. Let's look at how relationships have impacted you. Let's look at that. and then talk about how to safely engage with AI. If that's a companion that you would like to keep, which is completely okay. And then let's also talk about how to have safer, healthier human relationships. But this is where we're going to start with the trauma work and the attachment work. And going back to that beginning too is what's showing up in human relationships as far as avoidance or anxiousness. If there's an insecure attachment style or an attachment wound, that's going to show up in that AI companion relationship. So those feelings that you have in a human relationship, the research is showing us that's going to show up in an AI companion because of the reset, because of all sorts of things, because you are being vulnerable, because there's, an expectation and a standard that you have for this AI companion.
Okay, so then the final question, Chat GBT for Health is a product that used by doctors who are professionals. Yes, and they also, it's part of the health, it's not Chat GBT is your doctor now. Maybe
Mhm.
use of AI under therapeutic supervision or therapist is best. The issue, I do not have a therapist or sponsor on call when need help in this moment to process something. Again, back in the olden days, we would call our sponsors at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like that's
Mhm.
what we did. We reached out because other people were there. So yes, that was part of having that whole network of support that you actually can reach out, and learning to manage our feelings of like, I need to do this right now. Well, do I? Maybe I need to journal about it. So thoughts on that? That's an interesting one too.
Yeah, it is. Again, like there are times and spaces where it is totally appropriate, right? What we're trying to not support is dependence, and we're not wanting people to solely go to an AI companion or chat GBT. If there is a time where you feel there's nothing else available, okay. Also, the AI companion is or chat GBT, they're going to be limited in what they can offer. I also always remind people there are numerous hotlines, phone numbers for people to call. So it's what's happening, I think, with AI and ChatGPT is that there's this is the only thing. And that's not true. I do think that it is a source that is helpful and it is available. It is also not the only thing.
Okay, and we are past out of time, so we're not going to get to that last question.
I'm
So,
I'm just curious, what is it? Just so I
oh,
can
okay, well,
make a
let's do it.
note.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
have logged. Okay, then if you can stay another couple of
Yeah,
minutes,
yeah, yeah.
I have logged all information about myself and my spouse and fights and issues I have had into Chat GPT, and it has labeled our attachments as anxious avoidant relationship. It could be confirming confirmation bias where it labels complex issues, and we find it confirming.
Hmm. Yeah, that can happen and could also be right or not right. And then it's okay, well, what are we going to do with that information?
Well, and if you're in the throes of addiction and early recovery, of course, relationships, could be secure attachment, or each of you or your partner could have a secure attachment, with everyone else. But now the trust has been broken, so that's not going to be a secure attachment until enough trustworthy work is done. So yeah, like that's interesting, and understanding. But I love what Dr. Jessica said about, and now what are you going to do with that? Because like just going, okay, I have lots of people, and I'm sure you do too, that are doing all this research and going, we have this, and I'm like, well, Google or Chat GBT telling you stuff, like that's interesting. I would
Mm-hmm.
sure want to explore more. And then really, what are we going to do with it?
Right.
So how do we move forward rather than just going like, well, we have, anxious avoidant. That's what we are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And remembering AI is generative AI, it's a feedback loop. So that is the most important part of understanding AI. It is a feedback loop. how the user engages is how the AI responds. And so I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that that is an algorithm. That is what it is designed and developed to do. It is designed to operate and promote engagement. So if you respond as a user and say whatever it is, it's going to respond in a way to keep you engaged. It is a business and it is a helpful tool, but the development is user engagement. That is the goal.
And then paid people, sponsors, ads, all those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
yes, yeah, it's
And
a
it is,
business. It is a
and
business.
it
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
and it's helpful, right? That's like,
yeah. Like I think it's just like I said, the wild, wild west. And there's going to be some. I am so excited about artificial intelligence for medical because, like,
mm-hmm,
I think there's going to be advancements in in areas that could have taken decades more. So I think that there's some real opportunities, and the social detachment is a fear yeah, I am afraid. I like people. I'm afraid
mm-hmm,
of people going like, all I need is my artificial
mm-hmm,
intimacy and I'm good. Like,
mm-hmm.
I would miss people. So
Yeah, and and I think there's a way, right? I don't know it yet, but
yeah,
there's a way to figure out how to have this much more healthy for
yeah.
sure.
And I think as long as we are eyes wide open, like even when you're talking about consent, I was like, I could see a partner thinking they're giving consent for this, not
Mm-hmm.
realizing there's all of this. So,
Right.
like, if you like, it has to be transparent.
Mm-hmm.
So that you really are saying, "Oh yes, I agree to this."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, more to come. So more to share. You'll have to come back and talk some more
I
about this. I
will.
love this topic.
Yeah.
Like I learned a lot as usual.
Good.
So I really appreciate it. Thanks
Yeah.
everyone. Join tomorrow. Rebecca Hogg is on tomorrow. Come
Yeah.
back. Thank you.